Your Excellency, amid of global uncertainty, particularly geopolitical uncertainty, how is the European Union step to strengthening its security and also strategic cooperations with partners like Indonesia?
Yes, we want to enhance our relations with Indonesia. Indonesia is big, Indonesia is important, Indonesia has resources, and we want a higher status of our relations with more exchanges between our leaders or ministers at all levels. So what we try to do is practical steps to have, more students coming to Europe, more Europeans coming to Indonesia, not only tourists but business people, also European students. We try to improve the visa. We are working on this. But we are also working on security. You mentioned security. We go for things that are specific, but I think that are very appreciated on both sides. A concrete example, counterterrorism. The EU has so much to learn from Indonesia. Indonesia has done an incredible job in fighting radicalization. So we want to learn. But also other things. So, for example, last year we did a seminar on underwater drones with Kemenko Marves, the previous minister. Or just 2 weeks ago we did something on security with a BSSN. So we're doing a lot of concrete initiatives, and that's just the EU, but the EU is also the member states, and the member states are very active in reinforcing their links with Indonesia. You will have President Macron, who will come later this month. You had a few foreign ministers, Denmark, who came, Estonia, we had the Vice Minister of Greece. So we have a lot of political presence, and we have a lot of also deals on security, armament, procurement. So we are really upgrading the relations between the EU and Indonesia.
In terms of economic, what an example for the practical initiatives for EU and also Indonesia do you see?
Well, the biggest practical initiative is obviously the CEPA, and we want to build on that. We hope to conclude soon. We understand that coordinating Minister Erlangga is pushing, and we are pushing also from our side, Commissioner Šefčovič. We are making good progress. There are still some sticking points, especially import license, export license, local content requirement, but we understand that the government is working on a reform package, and we are looking very eagerly to that package so that we can finalize the negotiations on the trade agreement.
Well, speaking of the CEPA, regarding the CEPA, what are the key outstanding issues in the negotiations, and how close are both sides to achieve the final negotiation or deal?
No, we feel that there's really accelerating momentum, very good progress. The negotiators, the chief negotiators, speak all the time. We had our chief negotiator in town 10 days ago, and he's coming back, so we can sense that there is a renewed interest in the activity. As I said, from the EU side, there is an expectation of a reform package on import license, export license, local content requirement, and I'm sure that the Indonesian side will also have requests that we are looking very carefully at. And yes, hopefully this year we can conclude and usher a new era in EU-Indonesia relations.
Your Excellency, Indonesia views CEPA as a path to improve its industrial competitiveness. From the EU's perspective, what strategic interest that CEPA serves?
Well, for the EU, as mentioned, diversification is very important, and is part of a broader picture. But obviously, this is the fourth largest country, most populous country in the world, the third Muslim, the biggest Muslim population, and the third democracy. So it is a country where every European wants to invest in, a large domestic market, and it's not only just a large market. People are united, people are together, so there's a lot of human capital to work with and to grow. So we are very keen to do that, but we're also very keen to reinforce Indonesia within ASEAN. Okay. Intra-regional trade is something that can benefit everyone, and we want to build up the resilience and the economy of Southeast Asian countries as trade partners to the EU.
Mm-hmm. And how is the EU addressing concerns from Indonesia regarding market access, palm oil, and also sustainability standards in the CEPA negotiations?
Yes, we receive a lot of criticism in Indonesia and elsewhere about our standards. But if you're a producer, what is important is that you know that the standards are there to stay. You adapt to the standards, but what you don't want is the standards to change all the time. Mm-hmm. And as I said, we are quite predictable. Yeah. We set high standards, but then we stick to them. So in this case, let's take an example. Vietnam concluded a free trade agreement with the EU a few years ago, and they adapted their industry to the EU standards, which are perhaps among the highest in the world. Well, the benefit for Vietnam was that not only they increased their trade with the EU in a very substantial manner, they also increased their trade with the US because their standards were European, and because the standards were so good, then American customers used a lot of Vietnamese product. So we are confident in our standards, but what we want to make sure is to strike the right balance between the burden of these standards and the competitiveness for EU. So we are trying to simplify the way the standards are handled in order to have a competitive economy.